What's up, boys and girls? Welcome to another video from Sulis, and we are here, the start of the Wildcard Weekend. What a year it's been. They've had some strange games we've had this season. We've had teams that shouldn't make it, and some QBs that haven't had any playoff experience get our first crack at it, and so much more, including Tom Brady taking on another NFC East opponent in the playoffs. So, without wasting any time, let's jump right into the matchups. QBs making their first career starts. The Raiders and the Bengals, a rematch of the 34-13 win a few weeks ago, and these teams look like this was not a 34-13 win. This looked like a completely different team. The Raiders, Derek Carr actually had a great season when the Raiders made the playoffs 5 years ago, which is 2016. However, he had a leg injury, and the Raiders lost to the Texans. The Bengals, they have not won the AFC North since 2015. However, Danny Dillon got hurt. AJ McCarron came in, almost beat the Steelers, but there was that Vontaze Burfict penalty, which we'll not get into more detail. But this game, we get to see two young stars going up. We got Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, a dynamic connection. While the Raiders, well, they may have had no wide receiver because Henry Ruggs was released. They still have some other receivers too, like Darren Waller, who should be back, and Hunter Renfrow, who had a stellar of a season despite starting his year as a third string wide receiver. He's done all the damage. But the biggest X factor has been the running backs. Josh Jacobs, after starting the year off slow, has put up some really good games with 328 rushing yards in his last 3 games, including a buck 32 in that win on Sunday Night Football over the Chargers. On the other side, Joe Mixon, he's had a great season after last year battling with injuries. He's put up some really nice stats, and remember the last time these two teams met, Joe Mixon had 2 touchdowns and over 100 yards. But this game, we talk about the defenses, because defenses, they have players that can make big plays. Trey Hendrickson has been a great acquisition for the Bengals. However, on the other side, they've got 2 players that can create some pressure. Max Crosby, a Pro Bowler, and Yannick Ngakoue. They both lead the league in pressures. And when Joe Burrow gets pressured, he hasn't been doing that good. And when these two teams met, when Joe Burrow gets a lot of pressure, he hasn't had a completion. So we'll see if they can follow that same formula. So I think in this game, it's going to come down to who can have the football last. But I think the Bengals will get their first playoff win, but don't overlook Derek Carr. He can make people think twice about picking the Bengals over the Raiders. So this is the first playoff game. On to the next one. Well, I did not expect this game to be in the playoffs right now. I know these two teams met in the regular season, but let's see them again. Round 3, here we go. It's Patriots and Bills. Bill versus Sean, Allen versus Mac. We can think of any other win. But the biggest X factor in this game, run the ball. And that's how the Patriots won in Buffalo. When it was a windy city, Mac Jones just needed to attempt 3 passes, but let the running game do the work. Damian Harris, who had 900 plus rushing yards and 15 touchdowns, he will be your X factor this game. But they can't rely on Mac Jones, who had a great rookie season, not gonna lie. But he's not had a good ending, to be honest. He fortunately threw a pick 6 against the Dolphins, but the only way the Patriots are going to win is if Mac Jones just let the running backs do the work. And he does have a defense that's been really good with Matt Judon, the best acquisition. And don't forget about J.C. Jackson, though. He's literally taken over as the best quarterback in the league, who should be at an All-Pro. I don't know what the NFL has done, but it is what it is. But maybe you can prove that tonight. Now, what about the QBs? We talked about Mac Jones, Josh Allen. He's literally been the offense. He's been offense in passing, running. Well, Devin Singletary has been a little bit better since since they started to run the ball more with him. He's been pretty good the last few games. But this is a different team, and in order to beat the Patriots, they have to make sure Josh Allen doesn't turn over the ball more. Stephon Diggs has been the one-man show last year. Now it's an all wideout. Emmanuel Sanders, Gabriel Davis, Cole Beasley, Dawson Knox, and some Devin Singletary too. But in order for Josh Allen has been great in his home playoff games, but in the playoffs he has only turned the old ball over once in the red zone. That was against the Chiefs. We'll see if they can hopefully continue that trend, but picking on the Patriots is never easy, especially when you have Bill Belichick, the GOAT, on the other side. So this game's going to come down to run the ball and which QB can make the fewest mistakes. This will be a fun one to end Saturday Night Football. Then we've got the Sunday games. We've got the Bucs taking on the Eagles. These two teams met way earlier when the Eagles weren't really that good. But the true identity from this team, run the ball. And they have three guys that can do it. Jalen Hurts, who's been like the best mobile quarterback, other than Lamar Jackson, who's really good as well. But they've also got other guys like Miles Sanders, who hasn't scored a touchdown, which he should break the streak pretty soon. And don't forget about Boston Scott. He can really make players miss. Don't forget about Jordan Howard, though. He's really coming on pretty well with his team. But in order for the Bucs to win, Tom Brady's gonna have to take care of the ball. Well, he has to take care of the ball. He might win. He might win MVP again with how well he's done with leading in passing yards and touchdowns. However, this is a very different Eagles team. The defense doesn't really do much on the ground the last few games, but they can do it in the air. They have some corners that can help, like Jamel Dean. There's some guys like Shaq Barrett, Dominican Sue, and Lavonte David. However, the offense has been very thin since Chris Godwin went out, so they have only Breshad Perriman and Mike Evans to take over. And they have a guy named Gronk as well. He's really good. But to defeat the Eagles, they cannot make any mistakes. And this front can protect that. The Eagles' pass rush isn't as good, but makes plays when it needs to. Like Darius Slay, who has been a great corner for the Eagles after a year of disastrous, to be honest. So for the Bucs, the defense, running the ball hasn't been their best suit, but defending the pass has been excellent. So the only for the Eagles to win, they can just run the ball down their throat. But it's not going to be easy because this front can make plays when defense needs them. Now, the Eagles' offense, Jalen Hurts hasn't been taking care of the ball mostly, and even though they end the season now by playing against some easy teams, except for the Bucs, who they had to start all the starters, Jalen Hurts has been taking care of football a bit better, but still. Remember that 3 interception games against the Giants? Yeah, that's not how you're going to win. And their only wins against winning teams was against the Broncos and Saints, which was way back then. They haven't really beaten a team with a winning record since then, and that could end. But if you remember last year, Taylor Heineke had a stellar playoff game against the Bucs. They did lose, but it was a hell of a game for him. But so can Jalen Hurts reverse that? Make every team think that the Bucs can win. We've seen some underdog stories before. Can the Eagles do that? Well, let's see what this game brings. Well, a Nickelodeon game. Well, as we feature on Nickelodeon, it's the classic playoff game. 49ers and the Cowboys. But we're not going to be looking at the offense this game. We're going to look at some defensive players. Nick Bosa and Michael Parsons. Bosa, 15.5 sacks, has best comeback season. And don't forget about Michael Parsons, though. He can play at every position imaginable. And that's how he can make defensive players, QBs, think twice about doing that. The only way this team can stop Parsons is if you can block him. And they should have Trent Williams back. This man has been a great offensive tackle. He's been great. And this could be a really good matchup. But don't forget about George Kittle, though. He might not have great regular seasons, maybe just 2 games where he had a big game. But he can maybe make Michael Parsons, a tough time. And don't forget about their defensive line, though, with Randy Gregory, Marcus Lawrence, like these players can also make plays as well. So don't 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 overlook this defense though. The defense is also led by a guy that had 11 picks, Trayvon Diggs. But there's a bit of a weakness though. He makes picks, but gives up the most yardage when he comes in a player. So the only way to defeat him is to air it out and see what Trayvon Diggs can do. But don't throw him too much because he think twice about throwing the ball on him. The only way to defeat them is to make Trayvon Diggs miserable, which will be easy, but it's not. Now on the other side, remember I told you about Deebo Samuel? They've also have Elijah Mitchell who can run the ball as well. Deebo Samuel is literally the offense. Jimmy Garoppolo, well, he might be playing his last season as a 49er and might give Trey Lance a shot, but if he's going to go out, he's going to go out with a bang. He's literally given Trey Lance something to work with. And although Jimmy Garoppolo hasn't had like a breakout season, he's really big. He's really taking care of the football as of late. And the defense, as you said, they make plays when they need to, like an Anthony Thomas interception against the Rams. That's what defense matters. Now, offensively, I told you about George Kittle who had that game. There's also Brandon Ayuk who's coming on late. But in order for the Niners to win, they have to take care of the ball and make sure every player guards these defensive stars. And for Jimmy G, if it'll be a Deebo Samuel versus Trayvon Diggs, so you might want to think about trusting other receivers like Juwan Jennings and other guys that can make plays too. This game's going to be a really good one. I think this will go into overtime, but can't really tell who's going to win because the Cowboys have only 3 playoff wins since 1996, while the Niners, they've made a run to the Super Bowl a few years ago until injuries came in that time. So we'll see if the Cowboys can break the streak, or will the Niners give them another taste of deja vu. This might be the first game in which we might say, oh, this could be an easy win. Chiefs and Steelers. Easy. Chiefs win. Goodbye. Not so fast, though. Chiefs need to be careful. They have a defense named TJ Watt to look after. When he gets a sack, this team makes wins. And this man has been the only man that's helping this Steelers team win. Big Ben has regressed and might be playing his final season in the NFL, but if he's gonna go out, he might go out with a win. But if you look at his record in the wildcard, 3-4. That's not a good record to have in a wildcard game. But not to mention how this Chiefs defense has been great. Don't look at the stats though, because those don't really matter. It's the playoffs that matter. Patrick Mahomes, he's not really had a breakout season because of his interceptions, mistakes, but he has turned on nicely. Charles Kelsey, even though he hasn't had like the breakout season like Mark Andrews had, he's still a really efficient player for this offense. And don't forget about Tyreek Hill though. The Chiefs Cheetah didn't really have another good season as well, even though he only had a game where he had 184 yards and 3 touchdowns, and he has games where he had 10 plus catches. So it's not been a breakout season for the Cheetah, but again, he's a really good threat for defenses too. But the defense for the Steelers has also turned on as well. However, this game is not about just TJ Watt. It's about the offense too. This offense literally has been just one dimension. They're getting Juju Smith-Schuster back. However, they have to rely on other players like Claypool, Deontay Johnson, Pat Fairmount, and also their young stud Najee Harris. And he can make players miss, but this offensive line needs to think about that. Najee Harris has had a great season for the Steelers. He'll be a key part of this offense when Big Ben retires this year, or he's going to be playing 1 year. But this game is all about the Chiefs. They are trying to get back to the Super Bowl and try to win that ring after losing a year ago. However, the Steelers, they don't quit. Big Ben will give them one last shot to go to a Super Bowl. And it's going to come down to, will the Steelers, Big Ben, give another chance at the ring, or it will be the end of the Steel Nation and another Chiefs Nation win? We'll have to find out. And also, don't forget about that Chiefs defense, though. Remember I told you their defense has been improving? Chris Jones has been playing great as interior lineman. And don't forget about players like Tre'Davious Ward, who's been great as corner. The only way the Chiefs will win is if these defenses make plays when it matters. Will the Chiefs go down to another Super Bowl, or will the Steelers give Big Ben another run for his money? We'll have to see what happens, and Big Ben, if this is your last year, you've been excellent. And finally, the NFC West rematch and the Monday Night Football rematch, but it's playing in LA. Rams and the Cards. We had an NFC West rematch. We had an NFC East matchup. We talked about Patriots and Bills. This is an NFC West rematch. These two teams have had strong starts and bad finishes. Let's go into detail. The Cards, they offense looked great. They were undefeated, lost the Packers, but then things have slid down a bit. And it's been Cliff Kingsbury's motto. Great starts, bad finishes. They started the year like undefeated, and then they've lost 6 of their last 10, including most of them on the at home. You don't believe me? Look at their losses. Colts, they missed the playoffs. Seahawks, they missed the playoffs. They lost to the Lions. The Lions. Who loses to the Lions? Like, come on. They can't lose to the Lions. And you could blame they didn't have DeAndre Hopkins most of that year because he's playing through injury, but they can't make excuses. They have other guys that can help. AJ Green, Christian Kirk, and Zach Ertz. And don't forget about James Conner. That acquisition for running back has made them the 1-2 horse between Chris Edmonds and James Conner. And Kyler Murray, he's like a video game man. He can run the ball. He can throw the ball. This man is trying to make his case for MVP. And although he hasn't had the best great finish, the offensive line can help as well. However, the defense, though, they've regressed a bit, and this defense scares me because that Rams offense has been stellar. Even though the Rams lost Robert Woods this season, Odell Beckham Jr. is taking care of that. Van Jefferson's been making plays. Cooper Kupp, who's had an incredible connection with Matthew Stafford. These two have been like another good duo behind Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow. Like, that's the best duo you can ever have. However, this game isn't about Rams offense. It's about Matt Stafford getting himself a playoff win. If Stafford getting a playoff win, that could be a great in his resume. There's no excuse if they lose in this game with all the offense they've had. And defense, there are still some playmakers like Aaron Donald and Leonard Floyd. They run Von Miller, who's been making plays. And Jalen Ramsey's been like still the best corner in the league. He's made defenses pay. Only thing is, there should be no Devontae Adams, but I don't think we'll be seeing that next time they win. But it's all about the offense. Which one of these offenses can stand out? The Cards have been great on the road this year, 8-1 on the road. Their loss, if I told you, the Lions. And for the Rams, the only thing that can concern me is if Matt Stafford can take care of the ball. He's thrown interceptions. He threw a 3-pick against the Vikings, threw a pick 6 against the Ravens, whose defense was just all practice squad players. This game could see a shootout. I expect this to be a shootout. However, can these Cards defense stop Cooper Kupp? That's the only thing that concerns the Cards. Their defense couldn't stop the run as well. That's been the most made vulnerable thing. So could we see the Rams running back showing Michelle, who's been great for Darrell Henderson, and don't forget about Cam Akers. He's coming back, so he can make a big impact. So this Monday Night Football matchup is going to end like a shootout. I expect the Rams to win, but don't overlook the Cards. This game is going to be an epic showdown to end off Wildcard Weekend.